Hello everyone, welcome to another night at the Fireside Tales. The Fireside Tales is sending me on a secret mission to Ireland, and I really can't talk about exactly what I'm doing down there, but I'll be speaking to some representatives. But anyways, I thought to celebrate the occasion, I would do a story from Ireland. That's what I've got here. This is the story of the Thief Prince, a character we've already heard about in an earlier tale, and it's the story of his meeting with death. So this will be our introduction to the character of the Grim Reaper. So let us begin. The story is said to begin, as all good fairy tales begin, with once upon a time. There lived in the kingdom of Azafar a great thief named the Thief Prince. The Thief Prince was so quick that he could steal the whiskers off a cat and the flames off a candlestick. He was so clever that he could steal the stars and the moon from the midnight sky, with only a ladder and a rope. Most of the people in the kingdom of Azafar liked the Thief Prince. He took from the rich and gave to the poor. But there was one person in the kingdom of Azafar that did not like the Thief Prince. He was the king of Azafar, and the king was a cruel and vicious man, and he was also obsessed with the Thief Prince. The Thief Prince consumed his every thoughts and haunted his every nightmare, and he wanted nothing more than to kill the Thief Prince once and for all. And one day he heard about a book known as the Book of Death. And this book has the power to kill anyone that a person desires. So the king got an army together, and they went to the cave where the book was said to be hidden. And this cave was guarded by 1,001 sleeping dragons. And the king was just barely able to get out alive, with only a few scorch marks. But anyways, he sat down and began to read the book, and discovered that 20 people would have to kill themselves in order to summon the Grim Reaper to do your bidding. So the king did just that. He got 20 of his most loyal servants to cut themselves across the throat. And there before them stood the Grim Reaper. And the king said to the Grim Reaper, "I do not want you to just kill the Thief Prince. No, that would be too easy. I want you to kill his wife instead. I want him to suffer, and if she is not in the living world, he will not be able to live in this world either. He goes wherever she does." So the Grim Reaper bowed its head, and it stuck off to the Thief Prince's house, and it passed through the open window, and it saw the Thief Prince's wife laying there, and with its long claws it grabbed hold of his wife's soul, and it dragged it off into the tunnels of death. Well, when the Thief Prince woke up the next morning, he found his wife dead, lying beside him. And great was the Thief Prince's mourning. For months he could not eat or sleep, or just barely. All the colour seemed to fade from the Thief Prince's world, and he couldn't feel the warmth of the sun, or hear the singing of the birds. And his friend Red Fox felt so bad for him that he began to look into the matter and discovered what the king had done, and resolved that the two of them would have to try and save the Thief Prince's wife. So he went up to the Thief Prince and told him his plan. "Look, Death, he unfairly took your wife, and you need to get her back. We will go to the tunnels of death and save her." And the Thief Prince wasn't sure, but finally he said, "All right, I suppose we'll have to try." And so that is what they did. They got a great big ship, and they set off out into the ocean. Now, if you were to set out into the ocean today in a boat, you wouldn't get anywhere. But back then, there was still a sense of wonder and a sense of adventure, and people could find all sorts of stuff, all sorts of different magical things, if they just simply, looked for it. And anyways, that's what the Thief Prince and Red Fox did. They traveled to many islands. One of them was an island of fairies, and the fairies were, all these half-angel things. They were half celestial, half earth. And anyways, they flew around with bright lights in their hands. And the Thief Prince saved the Fairy Queen from an arrow wound on her leg using some herbs. And the Fairy Queen was so grateful that she gave the Thief Prince a shining orb, and said it would always provide hope for him, even in the darkest of hours. And anyways, they headed off. Next they went to the island of the skeleton creatures. And the skeleton creatures were the assortment of bones of fallen warriors, and some of them stood as tall as trees. And under the light of the autumn moon, the Thief Prince and the Skeleton King held a dance-off, and the Thief Prince won. So the Skeleton King gave him a bone that would always point towards death. Now, not much else happened on their journey, but I will make note of one other thing. As the Thief Prince was sitting on the side of the ship, he saw a bright star, and the star came towards him, and it seemed to get closer and closer, and soon the Thief Prince realized that it was an angel, with long blonde hair, and the brightest blue eyes. And the angel said, "Thief Prince, the heavens would like to aid you with this quest. I give to you this sword." And she held out a sword for him, and he took hold of it. "This is the seventh sword, the sword of the angels and the sword of light." And he pulled it out. "Only a true hero can wield this blade. And when you get into the tunnels of death, you may find you need it." And the Thief Prince bowed his head towards the angel, and the angel drifted back off into the sky. Anyways, soon enough, the Thief Prince and Red Fox reached the island, and they got out with their horses, and they headed across the stone. There was no life on the island, nothing at all, just stone, and not even a bush or a shrub or even a weed. And also, the sky was bright red up in the sky, almost like blood. There was one bit of life, I should say, on the island, and that was crows. Thousands and thousands of crows, all staring at the Thief Prince and Red Fox as they went by. And Red Fox said, "Thief Prince, what are all these crows doing out here?" And the Thief Prince said, "These are the messengers of death, Red Fox. They do his biddings." And the Red Fox looked around. Do you think Death knows that we've landed on this island?" And the Thief Prince nodded his head. "I believe so. It won't be a surprise when we arrive." So anyways, soon enough they came at the cave entrance, and it was pitch black. And Red Fox, he looked at the Thief Prince and told him that they should let the horses go, and they did so. And they couldn't help but feel a bit nervous as they stood there at the entranceway to death. But finally, plucking up the courage, the two of them headed down into the tunnels of death. They traveled for many miles. As they went down in the tunnels, they lost all sense of time. There was no today, tomorrow, or yesterday. Everything seemed to be of one time, and you couldn't tell if you'd been there a week or 1,000 years. Not only that, but they felt no need for food or sleep. They didn't even ever feel tired. Red Fox always felt nervous as he walked across the floor. He felt like at any moment he might stick his foot into a hole and fall down forever and ever and never be able to get out. Anyways, they continued down, using the bright light and the bone to lead their way. But eventually, the Thief Prince began to look through his diary and realized that all the pages were gone. There was no evidence of their past travels. And Red Fox himself realized that he was beginning to forget memories too. Not only that, but occasionally, they could almost swear they heard singing in the cave. It was the clearest, most beautiful singing they ever heard, like the sound of a bell. At one point, the Thief Prince could have swore he saw a little girl running through the caves, but he later said that it must have just been his imagination. Anyways, they kept going down the tunnel, and at one point, as they were going down, they suddenly saw a man approaching him. He was an Arab, with a crooked nose, and he was holding out a lantern in his hand, and he walked towards him, and he was staring out with wide eyes, like one who was dead. And the Thief Prince, he pulled out his sword, and he said, "Who goes there?" But the man didn't seem to hear them, as if he was part of another reality entirely. And the Thief Prince looked at Red Fox, and he yelled out again, Who is that?" And the man suddenly stopped, and he said, "My name is Abu Del Babar. I am a hand cutter, one of the greatest thieves to ever live. The angels saw the wickedness I did on earth, and they threw me down into the tunnels of death, and here I walk forever, not being able to reach into the next world." And the Thief Prince said, "Oh, I see. I've heard stories about you." And the man said, "Yes. And it's coming after us, you know." "What is?" said the Thief Prince. "The nightmare," he said. The Thief Prince, he said, "The nightmare?" "Yes. You see, long ago, in the age of darkness, mankind was almost destroyed by a monster, a beast from hell known as the Nightmare. It is made out of all the terror and all the fear that we human beings on this world feel. The Nightmare almost destroyed mankind. But, he said, the angels cast the Nightmare down into the tunnels of death, and it wanders forever, looking for lost souls to consume. Oh, it will find us, he said. It will find us and it will destroy us. It will take out the light of our souls and throw it and cast it away into darkness. We will become hell. And he began to laugh like a deranged demon or a man with his head cut off. And anyways, the Thief Prince and Red Fox looked at each other and realizing that the man was clearly crazy. But they continued walking and the man followed them. Finally, they arrived at a bridge and the Thief Prince stopped and they had a little bit to bite to eat even though they didn't need food. And the Thief Prince said, "What do you think of our friend here?" And Red Fox said, "I don't know. He was a wicked man in life. I don't know if we can trust him." Thief Prince looked over at Abu Del Babar and he said, "No, I'm not sure if we can either. But look, I know that we're forgetting things. I know maybe soon enough we're going to lose our minds and maybe this creature known as the Nightmare will kill us both. But I think that we're just going to have to get through this together." And Red Fox, he nodded his head. "Yeah, I guess that's the only way." Anyways, they continued down, and as they walked, suddenly the Thief Prince turned around, and he realized that Abu Del Babar was gone. And he told Red Fox, and they began to look all around, screaming, "Babar! Babar!" But there was no answer, only darkness. And as the Thief Prince stood there, he held up his light, and he saw the most terrifying sight he or any other human being could ever behold. For there at the bottom of the tunnel was a large black lizard, like oil, with bright yellow eyes. And it seemed that from within its skin there was the screaming of human beings being tortured in hell. It was the Nightmare, and it raised up its great jaws, and it came running towards the Thief Prince and Red Fox quicker than a horse. Well, the Thief Prince yelled, "Run!" And they began to run. They ran as fast as they could down the tunnel. Soon enough they arrived at a bridge, and there were bright lights all around, and the Thief Prince ran and Red Fox ran. But Red Fox, frightened and with the light bobbing up and down, accidentally tripped and fell over a rock. And as he laid there, the Nightmare came forth, and it gobbled up and ate him whole. And Red Fox was dead. The Thief Prince ran forward, but he tripped over a rock as well, and the light fell from his hand and it rolled across the floor. And the Thief Prince stood up to see the Nightmare standing there, and the Nightmare swiped its paw, and the Thief Prince was struck across the side, and he was bleeding. And I'm afraid it was a mortal wound, which certainly would kill him. Anyways, the Thief Prince, he pulled out his sword, and he let out a cry, for he had remembered his sword, the angel's sword, and he held it aloft, and the creature let out a shriek from the bright light, and the Thief Prince, he stabbed the creature once. The creature began to back down, back into the darkness of the tunnel, and the Thief Prince stabbed again, and the creature backed down further, and he went for a third time, but he missed. But it didn't matter, for the Nightmare had already descended down into the darkness. And the Thief Prince stood there, mortally wounded. He was so tired that he couldn't even continue walking. He fell down onto the ground and began to crawl. He began to crawl down the tunnel. He knew he was getting close to death. There was no more any light to guide him. He could only move forward as slow as he could, blood dripping from his side. And as he went, at first he heard nothing, but then he heard the sound of singing, as clear as angels. And it seemed to be getting closer and closer, and as the Thief Prince listened, he began to understand what the words that were being said. And then as he continued dragging himself along, he saw down, far off in the tunnel, a bright light coming towards him. And the Thief Prince stood there, and he pushed one more time, and that was the last bit of strength he had left in him. And then there appeared before him a man, carrying a lantern. And the man was dressed in a black robe. And the Thief Prince began to claw at the man's robes, and the man stood over him, and he dropped down his long claws, and he touched the Thief Prince. And suddenly the Thief Prince felt like a young boy again, and he stood up with all his health back in him. And the dark figure, who was actually Death, if you haven't already guessed, looked at the Thief Prince for a moment, and then bowed its head. And the Thief Prince bowed his head, and the Death beckoned him, and the the thief prince began going down the tunnel. And that is where we're going to stop. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, it seems like the thief prince is doomed. His best friend Red Fox is dead, and he's about to go to death, wherever death is planning to go. But we'll just have to wait and see. As always, sweet dreams and good night. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another night at the Fireside Tales. When last we left the Thief Prince, he had reached the Island of Death and traveled down into the tunnels, and he had met up with a monster known as the Nightmare, the worst beast of hell, and had just barely been able to escape with his life. Anyways, he had ran into the Grim Reaper, and the two of them were walking towards who knows what, and that's where we're going to pick up our story. The Thief Prince and Death walked for some time, until finally they arrived at a chamber that was as big as a mountain. And the Thief Prince soon realized where the singing had all come from. For all around him were the souls that had died in this world. And the souls were floating up above him, and being held down by these chains which were fastened to the ground. And from within the souls there came this singing. Well, the Thief Prince, he walked around, and he saw the souls of the great people of this world. Souls like Sir Richard the Lion-Hearted seemed to shine with a bright white light, while souls like those of Attila Hun seemed to shine with this sort of darkness, and it cast a shadow on all the souls around it. Anyways, the Thief Prince and Death walked for some time down the hall, and the Thief Prince saw the souls of his wife and Red Fox, and they seemed to be asleep, and the Thief Prince wanted to run over and try to wake them up. But Death, he took one look at him, and the Thief Prince, he bowed his head, and he continued walking. Eventually they arrived at a large door which is as big as a castle, and Death opened the door, and the Thief Prince walked in. Well, as the Thief Prince walked in, he suddenly heard a loud barking, and he felt a hot breath on the back of his neck. And the Thief Prince turned around, and he saw a dog, and the dog was staring at him. The dog was all grey, and it was as big as a horse, and the dog barked madly, and Death had raised its hand, and the creature had stopped, and it looked at the Thief Prince for a second, and then went off, and it lay back in its bed, and it stared at the Thief Prince with bright yellow eyes. Anyways, the Thief Prince, he got into the middle of the hall, and Death walked over to his throne, and he sat down, and he spread out his large wings like those of a crow, and pulled out his sword, the fifth sword, and he looked at Death. "Death, why have you come into my halls? If you are trying to steal one of my souls, I warn you that no creature can steal from Death, not even a great thief like you." And the Thief Prince said, "Oh, please, my lord, don't think that. I have come because you have unfairly taken my wife's soul, and I wish to speak to you, to try to reason with you, to give her back to me." And Death, he said, "There is no soul that I have ever stolen unfairly. I always follow the very rules that this universe has created." And the Thief Prince soon realized that Death was very much a rule follower, always following by the book. Well, anyways, the Thief Prince said, "Well, there must be some higher authority that I can speak to." So Death, he said, "Well, I do not know what good it will do, but I shall allow you to speak to the guardians." And Death, he raised his sword, and he swung it around, and suddenly the Thief Prince found himself in a great arena, and all around him were fairies and elves and demons and imps and goblins, all sorts of creatures. And they were all standing around as if they had been there since the beginning of time. And there, sitting on a high throne, was an angel, with long black hair and bright blue eyes, and she was staring down at the Thief Prince and Death. "Order, order in the court!" she yelled, and she seemed to have a very jolly voice. "This is the case of the Thief Prince and Death. As is custom in these cases, Death is allowed to go first." And Death, he bowed. "Thank you, my lady." And he looked around at them. "Friends, I understand the Thief Prince. I know it is sad when a soul dies from this earth. But let me just say that whenever one flower withers, another one always grows in its place. All things must die in this world. That is the natural order of things, the natural order that has been around since the very beginning. This book is a book of nonsense, But nonsense is just a part of this universe, a part of it like order. And when this nonsense is enacted, we must follow by its rules, and we cannot change them. No, we cannot go back and change this, for that would change the very flow of time, and that is something we cannot do. I would be willing to speak about bringing an end to this book, but as far as I am concerned, the Thief Prince's wife must stay dead. And Death, he bowed his head and allowed the Thief Prince to speak. Well, the Thief Prince, he walked up. My friends, I understand what Death says about this being simply the natural order of this world, that everything must die. But my wife was taken unfairly from me. No one human being should be able to just kill whoever they deem fit, just because they have enough people that are willing to kill themselves. And I understand that nonsense is a natural part of this universe. But nonsense comes so rarely in our universe that when it comes, shouldn't it be done for good? Out of mercy by this court and by death itself, I ask for my wife to be brought back, even despite what could happen. Because to tell you the truth, sir, I understand all these rules, and I understand the universe has to be governed by them, but damn them! Damn all the rules! Because, to be honest, we are all striving to reach a higher cause, a higher reality. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes you have to break the rules for those you love. And everyone began talking amongst themselves, and the angel, she said, You speak true, Thief Prince. There is a higher order in this world, and I believe that this higher order will decide the outcome of this trial. Therefore, we shall have 3 challenges, and the winner is the one that the higher being chooses. And she said, In other words, I am leaving this in the hands of fate. Whoever wins at least 2 of the challenges shall have, and she looked at Death, for Death, you will get the Thief Prince's life. But if the Thief Prince wins, he will get back Red Fox, his wife, and a bit of time that he has lost from his grief and sorrows. Would this be agreed upon you, Death? And Death said, I would agree. Very well then, said the angel. Court is adjourned. And she hit her hammer down on the table, and suddenly the scene around the Thief Prince changed, and he found himself in a large grassland, and there was a man standing in front of the Thief Prince in a green hat and green clothes, and the man said, Welcome, my friends. This is my homeland. And he said, This is Ireland, and I will be giving you the first challenge. Thief Prince looked around, and he realized that Death was standing next to him. You see, here recently, a bunch of snakes have been slithering around my country, and biting at the horses and at the people hiding under rocks. You two will have the duty to get these snakes out of here. And, the Thief Prince, he said, Well, I shall do my best. And Death said, Yes, and I shall do my best. So the 2 of them, they begin to go about. And anyways, Death decided he would try to kill the snakes, and he used his powers to kill all the snakes that he came across. But the snakes began to tell each other that Death was around, and they all began to hide under stones and in trees. And so Death couldn't get them all, and so Death was unable to scare the snakes from Ireland. But the Thief Prince was a little bit more clever. He found St. Patrick, and the 2 of them decided that the best way would be to charm the snakes out of Ireland. So the Thief Prince got a flute, and St. Patrick got a fiddle, and they began to play. And the snakes were also charmed by the music that they followed St. Patrick and the Thief Prince. And that is how the snakes all left Ireland. So the Thief Prince won the first challenge. And the angel said, Very well, we shall move on to the second challenge. And that is what they did. They moved into the second challenge and arrived in the woodlands of France. And a fairy came up to them. It was in fact Cupid. And he had his bow and arrow with the arrows of love. And Cupid said, Okay, folks, all right, there is a man here. His name is Gispetto, and this man has absolutely refused to fall in love. Not a single woman can charm his heart, and he prefers to stay a bachelor, something which I cannot stand. Now I have tried to shoot my arrows at him, but he's always able to run away from them. Therefore, I resolve you 2 to the task. You must make him fall in love with a woman. And he said, Here are my arrows. Use them as you deem fit. So the thief prince, he went after this Geppetto, and he saw him sitting, and he was singing to himself, quite happy, free in his bachelor life. And the thief prince, he pulled back his bow and he shot. But the moment the bowstring was pulled, Geppetto seemed to hear it, and he ran as fast as a deer, and the arrow didn't even hit him. Well, anyways, the thief prince tried and tried again until he ended up using up all the arrows. And he gave up and said, Oh, that man just will not fall in love. So Death decided to give it a try. He sneaked up, and instead of actually trying to shoot at Geppetto, he instead set out a gorgeous feast for him. And he used the tip of the arrow and put it in some wine. And the poison was all in the wine, and so Death, he hid behind a stump, and the thief prince and Death watched, and Geppetto, he walked over, and he took a swig, and as he was sitting there, a beautiful woman by the name of Maria passed by, and Geppetto was immediately thunderstruck, and he ran over to her, and he began to kiss her on the cheek, and the two of them got married, and the poor man was forced out of his life as a bachelor, and he never sang or was never happy again. Anyways, the thief prince and Death were becoming good friends now, and the thief prince said, You know, that's strange. I would have thought I would be the one that would know the most of love. Why do you know so much about love, Death? And Death said, Thief prince, there is no one that knows love better than I do. For whenever die come, people cuddle together. They try to be close to one another. And the thief prince, he raised an eyebrow, for some reason he didn't think that the Death was being completely truthful to him. But he decided not to let him bother him, and he decided to go to the last challenge. Anyways, this was the last challenge, and the angel stood before them, and she said, All right, here it is. You see, my golden staff was stolen to me by an old man. I have tried to get it back from him, but he refuses to give it. So I give the task to you two. You must take the golden staff from the old man. And Death, he said, But of course, this will be an easy task. And Death, he went on to the road, and he waited. Now the old man happened to ride by every single day on his horse. And so as Death stood there waiting, the old man came riding back forward, and Death, he had disguised himself as an older man, and he had a bunch of gold and silver and all sorts of jewels. And Death, he said, My friend, stop! And the old man stopped. How would you like this gold and silver? He said. I will make you the richest man in the world. And the old man looked at it. What do you want for it? And Death, he said, Well, simply give me your golden staff, and you can have all of this. And so the old man said, You can give me all the emeralds, and you can give me all the jewels, but I shall not let it pass to part with my golden staff. And then he rode away, and Death, he was quite angry, but he decided to play it calm, and he disguised himself as a younger man. And he walked forward, and the old man, he passed by, and Death, he said, Oh, stop for a moment, dear sir. And he said, I am a professor, and I would like to give you knowledge. Simply give me your golden staff, and I will give you all the things to know under the sun and under the moon. You shall be the wisest man to ever live. And the old man looked down at the young man, and he said, You can give me all the knowledge that comes from books, but I shall not let it pass to part with my golden staff. And he rode off. And Death was very angry now, but he realized that there was one more thing he hadn't tried, one thing that he was quite certain would work, especially if he was in a fairy tale. Anyways, the old man came riding by, and Death stopped him, and this time he was a sweet woman, and Death said, Please, sir, I would like to give you goodness. You will be the kindest and sweetest of men. And the old man said, You can give me all the kindness, make me as sweet as wine, but I shall not let it pass to part with this golden staff. And he rode off. So Death wasn't very happy about this at all, and he said, That man is impossible. He wouldn't part with that golden staff for all the stars in the heavens. And the thief prince, he said, Well, let me try. I think I do have an idea. So Death, he waved his hand, and the thief prince walked forward, and he waited for the old man to pass, as he did indeed. And the thief prince said, Stop for a moment, friend. And the old man said, What do you want to give me for my golden staff? for that's what everyone seems to want to take from me today. And, the thief prince said, Please, I do not want to take anything from you, sir. I just want to talk to you. Well, the old man, he said, All right. And so they talk for quite a while, and they begin to talk about how hard things were anymore, and how life seemed to be so miserable for the both of them. And, the thief prince said, The truth of the matter is that I have lost my wife. And, the old man said, Yes, the truth of the matter is that my wife is very sick too. She is dying in her bed, and she says all she wants to do is to see the stars, but she's so weak that she cannot even leave her bed, and I've been unable to help her. And the thief prince, he said, Well, maybe I can help you there. And the thief prince, he pulled out that bright orb that had been given to him by the fairy queen, and he said, Please, sir, here's this orb, and when you give it to your wife, she can see it like a star. And, the old man, he said, Well, I'm not sure. What do you want for it? And the thief prince said, Just your golden staff. And the old man said, I'm not sure if I can give you that. But the thief prince said, Please, look, I know that it's a hard world, and it's hard for all of us. But if you give me that staff, I have a chance of saving my wife. And if I give you this orb, you have a chance of saving your wife. So let us give hope to one another in this world. And, the old man, he looked at, the thief prince for a moment. Because, sir, said the thief prince, hope is really all you need. And, the old man, he sat there and he seemed to be thinking. And slowly he raised his staff, and the thief prince raised the orb. And the old man took the orb and he held it up in the air, and the thief prince took the staff. And the old man, he smiled at him. Yes, hope is the greatest gift of all things in this world. And he rode off. Anyways, the thief prince went back with the orb held up in his hand, and there was a great feasting and partying that night, and all the creatures, they sang, and there was great cheer. And Death, he walked up and he said, Perhaps, thief prince, you were right, and perhaps I have forgotten something about the human species. For in the end I think that life is in fact more powerful than even death. For life has hope. And the thief prince said, Yes, perhaps death. And, the thief prince walked, and he sat down and he laid in his bed thinking about this for some time, until finally he fell asleep. When he woke up the next morning, he found himself in his own bed, and he thought the whole thing had been a dream, and that he was going to walk down in the dining room and find that his wife was dead, and Red Fox sitting there with tears in his eyes with his children. But as he walked down, he smelled bacon, frying, and he could hear chattering and talking. And he ran downstairs and he found his wife and Red Fox sitting there, and Red Fox's 10 children, and he was very excited, and the thief prince ran over and he hugged his wife, and his wife said, My dear, what's wrong? It's as if you haven't seen me for years. And the thief prince looked into her eyes. Yes, it's a very long story, one I don't think you will believe, but come, let's have a little bit of toast. And they all sat down, and the thief prince began to tell his story. And as we leave this scene, the little hut of the thief prince, and look up into the sun, which seemed to be shining brighter than it ever had before. And I think that's where I'm going to call it an end. It's an incredible story, and very true. And, as always, sweet dreams and good night.